Welcome to the Mobile Workforce Podcast, where we sit down and have real conversations with business leaders that have been where you are. During these interviews, we'll dive into what it takes to improve systems and champion processes that maximize performance. Each week, our trailblazing guests share their experiences and understanding of the workforce to help inspire change, challenge our thinking, and share what it takes to successfully travel the road to profitability. Now here's our host, co-founder and chief evangelist of About Time and WorkMax, Mike Merrill.
Hello again, and welcome back to the Mobile Workforce Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Merrill, and this week we brought back our guests from last week, Mr. John Lenker and Assaf Arie. We had such a great conversation that we felt like it would be great to have them come back and recap a little bit of what they spoke about with us last week, and also add to it on the side of culture and improving and scaling your business in a better trajectory into the future. I think you're going to love this one as well, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Well, welcome back again, John and Assaf. We had such a great conversation last week. We just had to have you back on to talk in more detail about some other things that you help contractors do.
Well, thanks for having us back. And, please forgive me. I've got the same outfit on as last week.
Well, times are tight. Welcome back, Assaf, as well. Appreciate the vision that you shared last week, and excited for more today.
A pleasure being here, Mike.
All right. Well, we ended last week's conversation talking about really some of the key things that contractors need to do to not only scale, but also to run their business efficiently, some of the different phases that contractors go through. So let's assume that our listeners are in a pretty good place. They're where they want to be generally and feeling comfy. But what's the thing that they could do to take them to that next level? What can they do to double down on the goodness that they've already built and leverage the opportunity that's still in front of them?
I have to answer this right away before I can give it to John. Do not feel comfy. Kodak felt comfy. Where are they today? You do not feel comfy in business. Never, never, never feel comfy. If you feel comfortable, you're going backwards. I just had to throw it out there. Now we're going to let John take a shot at it.
No, I like it. It actually ties into where I was going to go, which again, I never know what I'm going to say. I've never said anything like this before. But I think that, the Mobile Workforce Podcast, you think about the people on the team and how to get everybody working in the same direction with the same vision. It's a little bit like, joining a church or something. Or, it's, one thing, the thing that tied in with the SOP is, I don't think you should ever join a church because you want to go there to be comfortable, right? You want to be made uncomfortable to a certain degree in the sense that joining a football team and getting maybe hired to play or recruited to play, you're not joining to feel comfortable. You're joining because you're going to go and work hard. You're going to plug in a way that makes sense for that team, and you're going to follow a system. And in the same sense of joining a church or joining a team, there's a doctrine in a church, right? And in the same way in a company, there needs to almost be like a doctrine. What do we all believe in? What are the principles? What's the theology of how to run a business, right? What are the things that if I don't address, if I don't create some kind of unifying vision, everybody who joins will just kind of be following their own thing. It'll be a bunch of individuals working in the same, area or on the same project, but they're not working as a team. And so one of the fundamental ideas that we like to present, and this has a lot to do with branding, is when we go through a brand building exercise with our clients, a lot of it is really about how do you shape your identity? A lot of times people think, well, the brand, the logo, the tagline is just a bunch of stuff we say about ourselves to get people to buy stuff from us, right? It doesn't have to be real. It just has to be good at convincing them to want to hire us. And we think that kind of thing is really a thing of the past. It doesn't work in this age of accountability where everything you do is online. It never was a good idea values-wise, but now especially, you really have to have your act together, and you have to think through what it is you're doing. And when you're creating your brand, you're really establishing those principles and those doctrines, those pieces of structure that come into the group that, create a framework within which everybody's operating. And ideally that people are believing in something that excites them, that makes them feel like they're special and they're different from the competition. We're the ones who, don't hide mistakes. We're the ones that are always trying to make things right no matter what. Whatever those principles are, but they need to be thought through, and that's at the core of a brand. And those ideas, those principles, those methods, those tools, all of those things need to be thought through and organized. And at each stage of development, as you grow and get bigger, and the number of people that have joined you is growing, and things become more complex, and specifically as you get further and further away from doing the actual work, right? And more is delegated. The business, if it's not built on a foundation of these systems and these principles and these ideas, it will start to fray. It will start to fall apart. The things that made people excited to hire you early on, those things aren't being followed through on anymore, and people don't even know why they want to do business with you anymore, right? So in a nutshell, thinking through these principles that unify us as a team, that give us a core identity, and give us ample, honest ammunition to talk about what sets us apart in the marketplace. Those things must be pursued, and they must be pursued from the beginning.
Yeah, you said some really important things there that really address the heart of some of the things that I've heard from companies, especially the last few years. Well, the market's been just growing gangbusters. People, 2-3 years out, so much backlog, they can't ever get to anything new. And even with our solution or other systems, I've heard literally hundreds and hundreds of companies, mainly business owners, executives, managers say, honestly, things are going so well right now, we just don't want to rock the boat. So what would you tell somebody that was saying that a couple of years ago? Maybe they're not saying that today, but what would you tell them?
You can't control change. Change is going to happen. And the minute that you are trying to hold on to things staying the same means that you've put your feet in concrete on the ground, and you're holding on to a vehicle that's moving. Eventually it's going to break you. You're either going to have to let go, or it's going to break something, right? You have to keep moving. You have to keep reinventing. You have to keep doing analysis of the market, and you have to keep adjusting. And these are things that really Assaf has taught me the most. It's one of the reasons he's the CEO of Lenker and not me.
I'll take a financial stab at it from a different direction. If someone is booked up a year in advance, they left so much profits on the table. It's unbelievable amount of profits they left on the table. They committed themselves a year in advance, and looking backwards, also inflationary period, right? But they committed themselves in prices from last year to do work this year, and the fact that they booked so far out, that means they probably should have brought their prices up a little bit. It comes from being too comfortable. It's too connected. Oh, I'm closing everything I'm getting. This is amazing. No, it's not amazing. There's a reason why you want to shoot for a certain closing ratio. You don't want to go too much higher than that. You don't want to go too much lower than that. Your closing ratios is a derivative of that. Will tell you your quality of your estimating, your customer service, your pricing, right? So if you're closing everything, take a look, reflect, take a look and see which one of those you can move or you need to move. In this case, if you're closing a lot, I wouldn't worry about your customer service and follow-up practices. Your estimating is probably okay, but your pricing is too low, right? Bring the pricing up. You still close some, but you close less, because if someone want to do their project and they're looking to do it a year out, or pay a little bit more and do it next month, they'll pay a little bit more and do it next month. Especially when the government printing money like crazy, right? And it's your COVID paying for that. They will spend the money now. So that's a result of not being connected. That's a result of being too comfortable. Like I said, the first thing I jumped before anyone answered is, do not get too comfortable. Stay connected. Understand where you're at and adjust as you need. And reflect. Reflect when you had a bad experience, and reflect twice when you had a good experience. Because you don't want to confuse being lucky with being really good at what you do, right? Because in the last for a period of time, not in the last year and a half probably, but for a few years, construction companies were booked out like crazy. The consumer, they control the market. They could have been very average and pretend to be masked to be a great company. But when the tide goes away, what did that Warren Buffett said? You see those that are floating or not, right? Warren Buffett said something about it. Don't be the dead fish floating when the tide goes away, right? That will happen. It's easy to be successful when everybody wants to buy the product you're selling. When the market will change, competition will come in, or demand will slow down, not everyone will survive. And that's where you don't want to get too comfortable. Stay connected, reflect, and avoid that.
If you're looking for better asset management, then you need WorkMax Assets. WorkMax Assets keeps your data stored in a central location. So as your team allocates equipment, tools, and resources, the rest of the crew is aware. Monitoring ROI has never been easier. Get WorkMax Assets now.
Yeah, and I think one thing too, and I think you'll both agree with me on this, but let your competitors lose money on that job. Take them out of play for the next good job while you raise your prices and make a little more. Let them eat that little margin and keep them busy and tied up while you're winning.
100%.
Well, there's a ditch on each side of the road, right? Because again, most of us, especially if we're selling to other businesses, if we're selling to general contractors, whether residential or commercial, versus direct to consumer, a lot of times you got to think about the customer lifetime value, right? The value of that relationship over years and years and years. And if you're working hard to build good relationships with the people that are buying from you, really what you're committed to is something more like a partnership. It's not so transactional. Did I make money on this job or not? It's more like we're both helping each other succeed, and we both want to win. I want to make sure you win. You want to make sure that I win, because if one of us loses in the deal, ultimately, one or the other of us isn't going to be around to be that great vendor that delivers on time and makes it easy and all that kind of stuff that we talked about before. So, there are times where, you kind of bend a little bit to help your client get through something, especially if you're dealing with somebody like a project manager who's in a tight spot, and maybe you're the one who gets them out, but you know what? That builds loyalty. That makes it so that, they're not always just buying on the lowest bid, but they also want to take care of you as well. They want to make sure that you survive, that you thrive, and that you are there for them over the long haul. So, I guess that's, let's just call that a principle. Let's not be so transactional with our deals that we're not recognizing the bigger value that comes when we build partnerships, right? And even if you're doing residential work and it's just one job, there's some jobs that, there's going to be this addition and that renovation, and, they might as well buy the new roof from you. That might happen. There's other things like in the concrete industry where maybe they're going to buy a driveway and then that's it for a long time. They're not going to put in a pool deck or a new sidewalk or whatever. So why does it matter, you think? Well, think about it like a partnership with their personal network. Instead of thinking of them as an individual resident, think of them as a company. They're a company of people, a church, right? People that talk to one another and refer to one another. And that what really you're doing is you're building a relationship with that network, and you're building a good relationship in that network as if it was a business that was going to do repeat business with you. So thinking through the dynamics of that and the physics of that, and really the financial side of that is so important. This is something that Assaf really, spends a lot of time with our clients building, is the fact that you'd think that a professional person out there doing business, they really understand the numbers. They're experts at how to be profitable, and they understand what capital is and what equity is and how they should pay themselves and how much they should pay and when they should pay and when to bring in partners and when to bring in investors and all these things. But no, most people are clueless about it, and they're most likely to make a bunch of really bad decisions about, forming relationships and partners and getting investors or whatever, borrowing. And, this is something that I'd like to hear Assaf talk a little bit about, because it gets to the real practical side of like, how do you engineer a success path for growth for your business versus driving it off a cliff into failure?
Well, I visited a business yesterday and, had discussion with the production team, and they had a hard time understanding what revenue they're producing a day. And I emphasized that if you don't know how much revenue you're producing a day, you don't know if you're even profitable, right? And there's some job costing issues, and, we put together a little plan, but John is smirking at me. We put together a little plan, but it's important to know. It's important to know every aspect of your financials in the business, right? And it's with business owners, especially in trades, especially smaller businesses, they tend to lie to themselves and we'll figure it out. We'll be okay. Well, no and no. I mean, yes, for the first one, you could figure it out, but not if you don't change how you do things. Because if you didn't figure out today, you're not going to figure out tomorrow unless you change something. But, you really need to dive in, know your numbers, know your minimum production per day, your break-even points, what you got to get to be profitable. How profitable is healthy for your business? How much are you financing your customers versus your vendors financing you? Those balances. So there's a lot to dive into for that success. It's boring. I'm an accountant, so I get excited about it. But most business owners tend to do this, cover their eyes, and say, we'll be fine. I'm just going to go. And, when you're in the trade and in construction, whether you do residential work, commercial work, there's money coming in all the time.
Always worked before. It's always worked before.
Yep. No, it's important to, slow down, know your numbers, know your productions, make sure you're profitable in everything you do, because a good construction company that maintain profit on a job level should maintain profit on a company level, and it should be very healthy. And in construction, you can build a $5 to $10 million business and clear $7 to $1.2 million a year in profit. And, that's great profit and it comes in fairly quick and secured without taking too much risk if you build it correctly. But if you don't know your numbers and you're not assuring profitability early on, and if you're not profitable, if you don't understand why you're not profitable, again, estimating, production, change orders, so project management, what is it that made you not be profitable, then you're guaranteed not to succeed, because you're maybe lucky now or maybe getting by with cash flow and deposits, but at some point it will catch to you, because those businesses always go like this. There's going to be the first setback will take them out of business. Here, there's going to be money coming in. The first setback will take them out of business.
Get complete project visibility with WorkMax Insight. WorkMax Insight uses predictive metrics to measure trends in your project so you can know exactly where your project stands, how it is advancing, and what needs to be completed to stay on schedule. Get real-time project updates with WorkMax Insight today.
You can only ride the market wave so long before that tide goes back out, and now you're left landlocked or, out of your depth.
100%.
Yeah, I gotta say, you guys are good. You know what you're talking about. I'm impressed with the things that you're sharing, the examples that you're sharing, because I've worked in this industry from both sides for a long time as well. So I've worked with many, many thousands of businesses, and you guys are spitting some fire right now, some things that would be super helpful for people to heed and listen to.
Yeah. And I mean, the fact is, there are things that we have learned over time that apply to different stages of growth. And, we exist as sort of a management consulting firm, a boutique management consulting firm. We specialize, one of our verticals is the construction industry. We really have a lot of information that can be super valuable to businesses at each stage of growth. And we would love to, hear from some of your audience members if they're wanting to jump on a call, and we always give at least a free 30-minute consultation just to kind of hear them out and learn a little bit about what their goals are. But there's a lot of safety in counselors that have experience, and it's really it's really something that you can benefit from if you're in a position to leverage that. So
yeah, well, Tiger Woods has a swing coach. Michael Jordan has a shooting coach. The best in the world at their craft, they all need coaches, and sometimes multiple coaches for different parts of things. And I know as a former contractor that didn't have a coach and should have had coaches or should have had other experts advising versus me just flying by the seat of my pants, like a lot of contractors do. You build it up, you work hard, blue collar, you grit through it, you find some success, you save your pennies, and you work hard and diligently, and eventually you can build yourself a pretty good life and make some money. But like you mentioned, one bad storm can take the whole thing down if you're not set up right.
Absolutely, and it can happen to anybody. So, we really, at the core of our values is we want to see small businesses grow. We think small businesses are the fiber and the backbone of this country here in the United States, and that's really what we're setting out to achieve is help businesses grow.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. I guess just as another closing thought, what are some examples, without getting anything too specific, but what are just some case studies that you've seen, one company or another achieve by implementing some of these principles that you guys share with them and teach them?
Well, we probably don't have enough time to go into detail, but I will say that we've helped a range of businesses at different sizes to grow. And I believe it's a true statement that we haven't had a client in the trades that has hired us as consultants that hasn't grown, pretty exponentially, doubled and tripled. So, we would love to, because it's really about making smart business decisions. We would love to talk to anybody about those things, and hopefully, maybe if there's room for another episode at some time in the future, we can come by and talk about the next set of issues.
I can give 30 seconds about two examples that are dramatic. So one was a concrete shop that we took from being effectively bankrupt, negative capital, in the millions of dollars, litigation helped them navigate through this, and within 7 years become the market leader in their segment. And so that's one success story. The other success story that I want to share is a company we've been working with for the last 2.5 years, and tripled their size, helped them build a team, systems, very healthy profitability, while going through that growth, maintaining profitability, paying down almost 100% of their debt that they acquired to grow, and then their brand reputation. I mean, they're still a fairly small company in the local market here, but they have built themselves a pretty good reputation in those 2 years. And before that, they were just chucking the truck.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations, gentlemen. We hope that our listeners will be able to benefit and gain value from your expertise, and we encourage them to reach out to you and see if.
Thanks for having us. We really appreciate you having us back. And again, people can learn more about us at lenker.com/mobile workforce.
It's been a pleasure being.
All right, you bet. Take care. Thanks.
Thank you for joining us today on the Mobile Workforce Podcast, sponsored by About Time Technologies and WorkMax. If you liked the conversation we had today, or were able to learn anything new or helpful, please make sure to follow us on our WorkMax page on LinkedIn and on Instagram at WorkMax_. And subscribe to the show on iTunes or your preferred podcast platform so you will never miss another insightful episode. Also, if you enjoyed the podcast, please leave us a 5-star rating and review and share the show with your friends and colleagues. Your support means the world to us and will allow us to continue providing impactful information with others looking to improve their results in their business and, in turn, their life.